Welcome back to Swampcast. Once again, I'm Bullfrog, bringing you the podcast with 30% fewer calories than the leading brand. So the Migrant Caravan, bent on invading the United States, had finally reached the Tijuana-San Diego border. Now, many of these migrants have been offered asylum where they're in Mexico, offered jobs and shelter, and they say, no, we want to get into the United States. So, Donald Trump is not having it, though. He has shut down that particular crossing point. Nobody's going into Mexico, nobody's coming out, or nobody's coming into the United States either. It has been shut down. Others who have tried to break away from the main group and try to sneak in through the fencing, they have been met with smoke bombs and rubber bullets. So yes, this is what you get when you have a strong, masculine man in office. You have a real man who's putting his foot down and saying, no, this invasion is not going to happen. And, of course, the left is just, freaking crying to get their pants in a twist, saying that Donald Trump's so heartless. They're bringing up all this shit about, the mothers with the little children. Okay, now, a parent who brings their children along this dangerous journey is not a good parent in the first place. So, that's what I got to say about that, though. But however, the left, they want to, they want to bring up all their emotional arguments, try to pull at your heartstrings and everything, and try to manipulate you that way, though. So, yeah, that doesn't work on me. I think with logic, not with emotions. So, yeah, and Donald Trump has said himself that, he says, well, it's not a direct quote, it's kind of a paraphrase, but he said, I want people to come here, but they have to do it legally. I want there to be a process. So, yeah, he's not going to let people just come pile on in here all willy-nilly. If they want to come into the country, he is requiring them to go through the proper process, go through the proper channels. He's not going to let people just come in and invade. So, my hat's off to Donald Trump. The fact that we here in the United States have a much higher quality of life and a much more stable society does not mean that we owe anything to any other country. So, transgender children is an issue that's growing in popularity in recent years. Now we're having kids as young as 3 years old deciding that they're born in the wrong body and believe that they're transgender. I think a lot of them are actually being coaxed into this by their parents. Now, I don't really see how 3, 4, 5-year-olds can actually decide that they're transgender. Now, I think that's kind of the thing that should be left up to them when they're born in puberty, when they actually start going through puberty and actually start to really recognize whether or not their mind really matches their body. A lot of them are being given hormones as well as puberty blockers at very young ages, and I think this is not safe. Now, as far as hormones and whatnot, that should be a decision that should be made when they're 18. It's transgender children, though. This does not really make a lot of sense to me, though. It's now they might grow up to actually discover that they actually are transgender. However, to make that kind of decision when you're a child, that's no. You're too young to make those kind of decisions when you're at that age. You got a lot of these, trans trenders who think it's just cool to be trans, and so they pretend to be transgender. And now you got these people advocating for transgender children, which these children, they shouldn't be put in that position to decide that they're actually transgender or not. This is not something that a little kid should be deciding. Now, of course, a bunch of left-wingers and a bunch of SJWs are going to call me a bigot because of this, but, I have no issue with transgender people at all whatsoever. However, I'm just saying that when you're a child, you should not be given the power to make that kind of a decision or any of that, though, that you're way too young for that at that age. That could really mess up your development and whatnot. So, I think that decision should be left up to the person when they're at least in puberty. And as far as, surgeries and taking hormone therapy and whatnot, that should be left up to somebody who is at least 18. I think a lot of this advocacy for transgender children is really just virtue signaling, trying to show that, oh, I'm so tolerant and accepting, and this is not good for little children, though. It can be considered child abuse, by pushing your kids into believing that they're transgender. I've actually seen one YouTube channel a while ago where the kid's father, who was a trans woman, but it was also, the kid was technically the kid's father, even though they had transitioned to female, and was talking to the daughter, who was apparently, she was 4 years old, apparently is transgender boy now, and he was kind of coaxing her and saying, okay, so you're born a girl, right? And you want to be a boy, right? This kind of shit, that's just fucking bullshit. I am very much against that. Now, again, I have no issue with transgender people. In fact, I think a lot of them are pretty cool. However, A child should not be put through that. They should not be given the power to make that kind of decision. This is fucked up and needs to fucking stop. So, Black Friday has once again come and gone, the biggest shopping day of the year. I'm sure you've seen how these people just clamor into that store like a bunch of rabid wolves, just grabbing all that merchandise and everything, so desperate to get it before somebody else does. Most people obviously don't think for themselves, and they got their brains wired by the advertising. They buy into all this big hype about Black Friday, and they just go absolutely ape shit when they finally get to the store. People get injured and even killed in these rampages. It looks absolutely pathetic. You know, as you know, there's a lot of times there's big long lines outside these stores the night before, and something I always want to do is want to have somebody drive me past one of these stores, you know, real slowly, and I'll lean out the window and with a bullhorn be like, "You're all a bunch of fucking slaves." You know, so they basically are. I think it's just so absolutely pathetic, though. I would never go to a Black Friday sale, especially because of that way that fucking crowd is. I personally never gave a rat's ass about Black Friday. I never saw the appeal in it. However, when this stuff is going on, you can really see just how much power the media and advertising have over people's minds. But they'll never have power over my mind. So I was watching a live stream last week by these two chicks who do a stream twice a week here on YouTube, and someone asked them an advice question on how to make long-distance relationships work, and I responded to this question in the chat box saying that I'm MGTOW. And so someone comes in and says, yeah, you're a little bitch, can't get laid, so that's why you're MGTOW. Yeah, and so I'm like, oh, here we go. Another one of these idiots that know fuck all about MGTOW, but, you know, they can talk mountains of shit about it. So I was like, well, yeah, that's insult, not MGTOW. And he goes on, talks more shit, saying, MGTOW equals pathetic. Can you get laid without having to pay for it? So I tell him, well, okay, you know fuck all about MGTOW, and he continues on, well, you know, you just pick yourself up by bootstraps, quit being a little bitch. He obviously knows nothing about MGTOW whatsoever. While he was, trying to shame me and trying to trigger me, which of course didn't work, what he was showing me is that he bases his self-worth, on the approval of women, on how many times he can get laid, how often he gets laid, and all this other BS. And so he's actually showing me his own weakness. I am free. My self-worth is based on my own self-approval. I don't need approval of women, I don't need approval of anybody else but my own approval. For this, I am free. And this guy, he's a slave. And that's what I call pathetic. The good folks at the Dickens Hard Beverage Company invite you to try new Dickens Cider. Yes, the ladies love a nice hard Dickens Cider. Myself, after a long hard day at work or just partying on the weekends, I gotta have my Dickens Cider. When I got my Dickens Cider, all my stress just seems to melt away. So, what are you waiting for? Go on out there and get your Dickens Cider. Alright, that'll do it for the Swampcast this week. Tune in next Monday and every Monday for new episodes, and remember to tell your friends about it. I'm Bullfrog. Thanks for tuning in.